It's funny that the DS9 came on. What a coincidence. You know, they had that script over at Paramount for probably a little more than a year. JMS had submitted the Babylon 5 script and they did nothing with it. I just find it strange that after a year he took it back and he went over to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers, I don't think they were that enthusiastic. They left us alone all the time, which was great. We had no meddling from the studios, so we had no interference from them. They just let us do our thing. That was great. Then Star Trek comes out with this strange show about a space station called DS9, Babylon 5 DS9. It was too different. It was too close. Because Star Trek didn't have space stations. They were always moving, always going, So I got a laugh out of that. But I made great friends. Jerry Doyle and I are still great friends. Oh, God. And, we still hang together once in a while. So, people ask me, why not have a Babylon 5 movie? Well, why not a new TV series? Well, TV, we're on television right now, we're not in outer space anymore. It's all vampires and zombies and, people that have amazing mental powers and things like this. That's the kind of science fiction we're doing right now. We're not doing that kind of science fiction anymore. About outer space and alien worlds and things like that. I think it's a shame because I think we'd like to see that again, I think my answer to when people ask me, would you ever do Babylon 5 again? And I really don't know because I don't know that we can capture that same, whatever magic that was. You can't capture it again. It was of its time and place. And it's like capturing lightning in a bottle again. You can't, we don't have those same people. We're not the same people anymore. Because Joe had so many more storylines that we never got to tell. That's why I always got in arguments with him about this 5-year saga. I said, 5 years? Why 5? We've got 10 years here. And, but he just wanted to do it in 5. So he was the writer, he was the boss. So I think that it would be very hard to capture Babylon 5 again, even in a big movie. I know they did it in Star Trek, but we weren't in Star Trek. We were a very small, very different program. That's my answer to them. They don't want to hear that. People want to always think that we can still do it again. But it's a beautiful dream. Yes. Look at the boss here. She's trying to rush me. Anyway, most of you all know everything. You know my story better than me. Especially this group over here. If you have some questions, though.
Lei fa parte della National Space Society, yeah? Questa passione dello spazio è arrivata dopo aver fatto Babylon 5 o è stata una cosa già precedente?
Have you ever been interested in space or just after Babylon 5?
Oh, no, during Babylon 5. I went to, I became good friends with many people at NASA. During that time, they used to come and visit us when they would see, in Southern California, there's it's called the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, it's JPL. It's a huge NASA facility, where is it? It's near Pasadena, in Pasadena, California. So oftentimes, scientists from NASA would come out and we always extended an invitation to them to come and visit our set. Many of the background shots when you would see our spaceships or the shadow ships coming and you saw these great pictures of the nebula, those were actually provided for us from NASA, actual shots from deep space, from the Hubble telescope and things like that. We used the actual backgrounds, or animators did. But they would often come out and I always found it very funny that they were fascinated with how we created this plywood space station made of wood, you know, that had never left the ground. And I would always say, you know, how can you be fascinated when you actually do the real thing? You're actually building rockets, the space shuttle and stuff like that. And they would say, but sir, you provide the dreams. We try to provide the reality. And take those dreams and make them reality. And I always found that, you know, just terrific. I've always been a science fiction fan. I mean, I grew up as a boy during the golden age of in the 1950s. Obviously, in the 1960s, when Stanley Kubrick said in 2001 we would find a monolith on the moon, you know, in the great 2001: A Space Odyssey. I've always been fascinated by that. I joined. I was asked by the National Space Society, the NSS, to be one of many, like Tom Hanks and some authors, Ben Bova, and so on and so forth, to sort of be on the board of governors of the National Space Society. I've gone to a number of their conventions and meetings, but I haven't in recent years. Not that I'm not interested, it's just, it's hard to do these kind of conventions and then go to those things too. I mean, it's quite an investment of time. But I'm still fascinated by it because I feel we've kind of let down the world right now. I mean, we were kind of the leaders in space. I want to see us maintain that. I think, if you remember in Babylon 5 when Captain Sheridan was talking, there was a speech, and I will paraphrase it, that humanity is kind of looking down at their shoes right now. We're not really, as a whole planet, committed to looking out at the horizon and trying to explore out there in space as much. We still are, but not as a unified world. And I think there's still more to be done. But that's my opinion. And, anyway, any more questions? Anybody else? I don't get to sit down.
Oh, yes, you want to sit?
Yeah, I'm an old man, for God's sake. I'm sitting up here. I want to look down. Anyway, yes.
Sì, ciao Bruce, volevo sapere se tu, diciamo, volevo sapere quanto i tuoi personaggi, tipo Scarecrow oppure Sheridan, hai potuto, diciamo, mettere del tuo, cioè hai potuto sviluppare questi personaggi, se il copione era rigido oppure potevi fare qualcosa, insomma, di personale, di sviluppare il carattere di questi personaggi.
No. That is called comic timing. You have to understand that you have many producers, you have many writers. Certainly, by my performance, maybe I'll stand up here, you're all straining to see. Certainly by my performance, I influenced the writers when they would watch me, the way I talked, the way I reacted. Then, especially good television writers, start to adapt the character to the actor's personality, speech patterns, you know, those type of things. That's about all the influence I really had. I never felt it was my job to be the writer or the producer unless I was the writer or the producer. I mean, my job was to be an actor. My job was to interpret the writers, the writers' thoughts and how they created the character. That was my job to do. If it was difficult for me, then certainly I would ask, like say if there was a line or some sort of part of the dialogue that I just couldn't do with any truthfulness, then I would ask, let's take a look at this. And certainly Kate and I used to take the scripts apart. I mean, Kate was a very, very smart, and is a very smart woman when it came to the material, what worked, what didn't work, and especially the humorous aspects of Scarecrow and Mrs. King. Because that's what we always looked for. It was we could have done it as a straight adventure story, which we did, but we always tried to find the quirky humor with Amanda and Lee. Those little man-woman things that I think you all responded to. That's the stuff you saw. We contributed that. We did a lot of that. And then the writers, being very smart, picked up on that. And they would write more of that type of material. But TV schedules are very, very, what can I say? They're very, very, you don't have much time. Time is your enemy, always, you know? It is always, you're up against the clock, as they say. So we pretty much got handed the material. We were doing it that day, or we were doing it the very next day. We didn't get a lot of time to digest the material. You had to just get it, and go. So, because you had to make a movie every 7 days, a full movie. You know, an hour-long television show was, and back in those days, was probably 43 minutes of film. 60-minute television show, that's the other minutes were for commercial breaks. You always had to have a commercials, you know. Somebody has to pay the bills. That's why we have commercials. And so, you know, we would love to have a lot of rehearsal time. We didn't have a lot of rehearsal time. But that's why they paid us. We were professionals. We knew how to do it. Get it, find it out, explore it while we're doing it. And then we would come up with whatever the humor we had. I always thought we had some very funny scenes together, you know. We were all laughing about them the other night. Lee and Amanda, two real, very different people that somehow found themselves in these circumstances together, and then established a real bond and then actually a love for each other. Though neither would ever admit it, you know, in many ways. Amanda more towards Lee. Lee would never admit it. Yeah. But he secretly loved her very much, you know. And other people, and now people ask me too about it, would we do another Scarecrow and Mrs. King? I was just at a fan convention in, where was that? That's Toronto, Canada. And someone handed me a script about Scarecrow and his children. I'm thinking like I have sons and I would have, you know. This is another case where capturing lightning in a bottle again is no way. I know even Kate wanted to. She finally, 2 years ago, she called me wanting to do Scarecrow and Mrs. King again. And I went, well, that would be sweet. That's a wonderful dream, but I don't think we'll be able to do it. They're not doing that kind of programming anymore in the States. But she had a very humorous idea, and I thought if it was Lee and Amanda, have since retired from the spy game, and but we're off getting in trouble all the time, and our children, our son and daughter, have to try to find us and get the parents out of trouble again. They're always, you know, getting in something. There was some kind of angle, but no one ever really pursued it. I think if we were going to do a reunion movie, we should have done it 15, 20 years ago already. I mean, truthfully. The audience has changed. The audience wants different things now, unfortunately. I'm going to listen. But anyway, you have questions, sir? Did that answer your question, dear?
Yes.
It did? Okay.
Mi fate un favore, volete i flash? Non vedo più niente.
Allora, volevo chiedere se c'era un TV show, una serie successiva a Babylon 5 del settore di sci-fi alla quale avrebbe voluto partecipare tra le successive a Babylon 5.
Di fantascienza o
Di sci-fi, sì, di fantascienza.
That's a very difficult question because Babylon 5 was too good. I mean, I don't know what's going to follow that. Another TV series, I don't know. Maybe you all know a TV series I would have went good in. I don't know. I really don't know. I think after Babylon 5, it would have been very difficult to find something that I'd be interested in. I got to do everything on that show. I flew spaceships, fell in love, I had fun times, I got to get killed and come back. You know, it's one of my favorite lines in the series. Sheridan, we thought you were dead. I was, but I feel much better now. I love that. I love that. You know, I think that was kind of the tops for me. Top show. I don't think of what. No, never Battlestar Galactica. No. Terrible show. No, they exactly copied our show, the new one. It was dark. They had the same kind of uniforms. Battlestar Galactica had long hair, swords, and capes, the original one. It was Star Wars for television. And suddenly there was a lot of it. I never watched the show. I saw one episode and I said, I don't, you know. No, actually, I want to do other things. I'm doing this show right now. Hopefully we'll go back into production in July. That is kind of a light comedy thing for me to do. I want to challenge myself. I don't want to go back and do the same old roles again. Those